The trade station called Horizon's Edge floated in the dark of space like a city made of metal and light. Ships came and went every hour. Creatures from 100 different worlds walked its halls, bought and sold goods, made deals, and sometimes made enemies. Park stood at the window of his ship, the Gentle Dawn, and watched the station grow larger as they approached. He was a man of 42 years with a calm face and tired eyes. His hair was turning gray at the sides. He had been a freighter captain for 15 years, and in all that time he had never raised his voice in anger. Not once. "Docking request accepted," said from the communications panel. She was young, barely 25, with quick hands and a quicker mind. "We have Bay 17. "Good," said. "Tell the crew to prepare the cargo. Those medical supplies need to reach the colony within 3 days or people will die." His second-in-command walked onto the bridge. She was a woman who smiled rarely but meant it when she did. Her arms were crossed and her eyes were sharp. "I don't like this station," she said. "They have too much control here." Nodded slowly. They were in species, tall and covered in hard black shells. They had 4 arms and eyes that never blinked. They controlled most of the trade in this sector, and they did not play fair. "We just need to pass through," said. "No trouble." But trouble found them anyway. The moment the Gentle Dawn landed, a group of officers marched toward the ship. Their leader was a creature named, a mid-ranking commander with a scar across his face. He carried a data tablet and a look of hunger. "Captain Park," said, his voice clicking and buzzing, "we have reviewed your cargo manifest. The medical supplies you carry are now property of the consortium." Blinked. "I'm sorry, I don't understand." "A new regulation," said. "All medical goods passing through this station must be inspected and redistributed according to market value. Your supplies will be sold to a buyer who can pay more than your little colony." Stepped forward, her hands becoming fists. "Those supplies are for dying people. Children are sick. Families are waiting." Made a sound that might have been laughter. "That is not our concern." Raised a hand and stopped. He looked at with eyes that showed nothing. "There must be a way to solve this," said calmly. "Perhaps we can pay a fee. Perhaps we can negotiate." "There is no negotiation," said. "The cargo is ours. Your ship is impounded until we complete our inspection. You and your crew will wait in detention." "Detention?" The engineer stepped forward. He was a big man with gentle hands, better with machines than with words. "We've done nothing wrong." Guards raised their weapons. "You are resisting lawful authority. That is a crime." Everything happened quickly after that. The crew of the Gentle Dawn were taken from their ship. Their hands were bound. They were marched through the station while aliens of many species watched from the shadows. An old merchant, a creature that looked like a mix of bird and deer, watched the humans being led away. His feathers were gray with age, and his eyes were full of worry. A young officer stood beside him, laughing. "Look at them, so small, so soft. They think they can argue with us." The old grabbed the young officer's arm. His grip was surprisingly strong. "Listen to me," the said, his voice low and serious. "I have lived for 200 years. I have seen many things, and I am telling you now, do not push the humans." The young pulled his arm away. "Why, what can they do? They have no claws, no shells, no venom. They are weak." The shook his head slowly. "You see their bodies, but you do not see what is inside. Humans are not like us. They do not fight when they are angry. They fight when they are calm. And when a human becomes truly irritated." He paused. "Every species in this galaxy knows the rule. When a human says those words, you run." The young laughed again and walked away. They watched him go. Then he looked at the humans being led to detention, especially the captain with the gray hair and the quiet eyes. They had seen that look before, long ago, during the siege of Altair 7. He had seen what happened when humans stopped asking and started acting. He began packing his belongings. He would leave this station tonight. In the detention block, the humans were separated. The crew was put in one cell and was put in another alone. The walls were cold metal. The light was harsh and white. A guard stood outside his cell, watching him with unblinking eyes. "You are very calm for a prisoner," the guard said. Sat on the bench, his hands folded in his lap. "There is nothing to be upset about yet." "Yet," the guard tilted his head. "You have lost your ship, your cargo, your freedom. Are you not afraid?" Looked up at the guard. His face was still calm, but something moved behind his eyes. Something old and patient and very, very deep. "No," said simply, "not yet." The guard felt a strange feeling in his chest. It was cold. It was uncomfortable. He had never felt it before, not in all his years of service. He did not know the word for it. The word was fear. And somewhere in the station, a clock began to tick. In a small office on the upper levels of Horizon's Edge, a human diplomat named Bay read the report 3 times. He was 53 years old, with white hair and a soft voice. He had spent 30 years talking to aliens, solving problems with words instead of weapons. But some problems could not be solved with words. "They arrested an entire freighter crew," said to his assistant, "for carrying medicine to sick children." His assistant, a young woman named Han, nodded. "The claim it was a legal seizure. They say the captain resisted." "Captain Park has never resisted anything in his life," said. "The man once apologized to a pirate who tried to rob him." Stood and walked to the window. Outside, ships moved through the darkness like fireflies. Somewhere down there, in the cold metal cells of the detention block, his fellow humans were waiting. "I will speak to the commander," said, "formally, through proper channels." Looked worried, "And if proper channels don't work?" Did not answer. He simply looked out at the stars and remembered. 200 years ago, humans had first left their home planet. They had come into a galaxy full of ancient species, powerful empires, and rules they did not understand. Many aliens had looked at humans and seen nothing special. Small bodies, no natural weapons, short lives. But then came the siege of Altair 7. A human colony of 8,000 people. An invasion force of 60,000 soldiers from the Empire. Everyone expected the colony to fall in days. It did not fall. For 18 months the humans fought. They did not have better weapons. They did not have more soldiers, but they had something else. They adapted. They learned. They refused to give up. When the rescue fleet finally arrived, they found the army destroyed. Not defeated, destroyed. The humans had taken apart their enemy piece by piece, using traps, tricks, and a patience that seemed inhuman. One general, captured alive, was asked what had happened. His answer became famous across the galaxy. "They do not stop," he had said, his voice shaking. "They do not sleep. They do not forget. We killed them and they kept coming. We hurt them and they smiled. They are not people. They are persistence given flesh." After Altair 7, the galaxy learned to be careful with humans. But some lessons are forgotten. In another part of the station, a young human journalist named was recording interviews. She was 28 years old, with curious eyes and a recorder that never stopped running. She had come to Horizon's Edge to document alien cultures. Instead, she had found a story. "Tell me about the rule," she said to a merchant. There was a cat-like creature with golden fur and nervous whiskers. "The rule," they looked around, making sure no one was listening. "Every species knows it. It is not written in any law book, but it is real." "What is it?" They leaned closer. "Humans have stages. First, they are annoyed, they complain, they ask questions. This is safe. Second, they are frustrated, they argue, they raise their voices. This is still safe. And third," the fur stood up along his spine. "Third is irritation, true irritation. This is when the human stops talking, stops arguing, becomes very, very calm." He swallowed. "When a human says they are getting irritated, you do not fight. You do not negotiate. You run. You run as fast as you can and you pray to whatever gods you believe in. Y asked, "What happens?" The shook his head. "I do not know. I have never stayed to find out. No one stays to find out. That is why we are still alive." Down in the detention block, they had begun their interrogation. Sat in a metal chair, her hands bound to the table. An officer stood over her, holding a data tablet. "Sign this document," the officer said. "It says your captain was smuggling illegal goods. Sign it and you will be released." Looked at the document, then she looked at the officer. "No," she said. The officer hit her across the face. The sound echoed in the small room. "Sign it." "No." He hit her again and again. Blood ran from her lip, but her eyes never changed. They stayed hard. They stayed angry. "You humans are stupid," the officer said. "You cannot win. Why do you resist?" Smiled. It was not a nice smile. "Because that's what we do," she said. "We resist. We endure. And when the time comes, we remember." In his cell, alone, sat in the darkness. He had heard the sounds, the hitting, the questions. He knew what was happening to his crew. His hands were still folded in his lap. His face was still calm. But inside, something was changing. Something old was waking up. It was the thing that had let his ancestors survive ice ages and wars and plagues. It was the thing that had turned a weak, clawless species into the rulers of their world. A guard walked past his cell and looked in. He saw the human sitting quietly, doing nothing. But the guard felt something strange. The air seemed heavier, colder. He felt like he was being watched by something much bigger than the small man in the cell. He walked away quickly. Inside the cell, opened his eyes. The patience was ending. The predator was waking up. The commander of the forces on Horizon's Edge was named Val. He was larger than most of his kind, with a shell as black as space and eyes that glowed faintly red. He had conquered 3 systems. He had killed thousands. He feared nothing. When the human captain requested a meeting, Val agreed. He was curious. He wanted to see what a human looked like when it begged. The meeting room was large and cold. Val sat at one end of a long table, surrounded by his officers, was brought in by guards, his hands unbound but watched carefully. Walked slowly to the other end of the table. He did not sit. He stood, looking at Val with eyes that showed nothing. "Commander," said, his voice calm and level, "I have come to make a final request." Val made a clicking sound of amusement. "Speak, human." "My crew has done nothing wrong. My cargo is medicine for dying people. My ship was on a legal route." Paused. "I ask you to release my crew, return my ship, and allow me to complete my delivery. People are suffering. Children are dying. There is no reason for this cruelty." Val leaned forward. "No reason. The reason is simple, human. We are strong. You are weak. The strong take from the weak. This is the way of the universe." "I am asking politely," said. "And I am refusing," Val said. "What will you do? Fight me? You have no weapons. You have no army. You are one small, soft creature in a station full of my soldiers." Val stood up, towering over the table. "Your species calls itself civilized, but you are nothing. You are prey pretending to be predators. Your crew will sign the documents or they will suffer. Your cargo will be sold. And you will watch, helpless, knowing that you could do nothing." The room was silent. Every officer watched, waiting for the human to break, to cry, to beg. Did not cry, he did not beg. Instead, he took a slow breath, then another. His shoulders relaxed, his hands unclenched. And then he spoke. "I have been patient," he said. His voice was still calm, but something had changed. The air in the room grew heavy. "I have been reasonable. I have followed your laws even when they were unjust. I have asked nicely. I have tried every peaceful way I know." He looked up at Val. "Now I'm getting irritated." The effect was immediate. An ambassador who had been observing the meeting stood up so fast his chair fell over. He ran for the door without a word. 2 traders followed him. A crystalline collective observer simply vanished, teleporting away in a flash of light. The officers looked around in confusion. What was happening? Why were the others running? Val laughed. Is this supposed to frighten me? Words, you think words will save you. But he noticed that his own officers were backing away from the human, slowly, quietly. Their weapons were raised, but their hands were shaking. Sir, one officer whispered, perhaps we should. Silence, Val roared. It is one human, one. Smiled. It was a small smile, almost sad. You don't understand, he said. I tried to warn you, I really did. The lights in the room flickered, then they went out. In the darkness there was a soft sound, the sound of a human moving. When the lights came back on 3 seconds later, 2 guards were on the floor, unconscious. Stood exactly where he had been, but now he was holding a weapon he had taken from one of them. He had not fired it. He did not need to, not yet. How Val stared. How did you? I watched your guards for 16 hours, said calmly. I learned how they move, where they look when they blink. Your species blinks every 4.7 seconds, always with the left eyes first. That gives me almost half a second of reduced vision. It's enough. He set the weapon down on the table. I'm not going to fight you here, he said. That would be too easy. Instead, I'm going to leave. I'm going to free my crew, and then I'm going to take back my ship and my cargo. You're insane, Val said. There are thousands of soldiers on this station. Yes, agreed, and there are 47 humans. Across the station, alarms began to ring. It had started. In the detention block, the guards found their electronic locks failing, one by one. In the power center had already reached the main controls, using paths through maintenance tunnels that No had thought to guard. In the communications hub was broadcasting on every frequency, calling every human on the station. And they answered. Traders, scientists, families, diplomats, 47 humans of all ages and all jobs. None of them were soldiers, but all of them were human. And every single one of them had heard the words. Now I'm getting irritated. They knew what that meant. It meant the talking was over. It meant the patience had ended. It meant that somewhere on the station, a very calm man had finally run out of peaceful options. They had made a mistake. They had seen human kindness and thought it was weakness. They had seen human patience and thought it was fear. They were about to learn the truth. Humans were not patient because they were weak. Humans were patient because they knew what they became when patience ended. And now the galaxy would remember. The first night was the worst for them. They expected a battle. They expected fighting, shooting, explosions. They were ready for war. But humans did not give them war. Humans gave them something worse. In the eastern sector, a patrol of 12 soldiers moved through the corridors. They were armed. They were alert. They were scared, though none of them would admit it. Then the lights went out. When the lights came back on, 2 of their soldiers were missing. No sound, no struggle, just gone. They searched for an hour. They found their comrades in a storage room, unconscious, tied up with electrical cables. On the wall, someone had written 2 words in the language, "We remember." This happened again and again, all across the station. The soldiers needed 6 hours of sleep every cycle. Their bodies demanded it. Without sleep, they became slow, confused, and clumsy. The humans did not let them sleep. Every time a patrol stopped to rest, something happened. An alarm went off. A door slammed. Footsteps echoed in empty corridors. The humans worked in shifts, rotating through the station, never stopping, never resting, always watching. This is impossible, a lieutenant reported to Commander Val. They are everywhere and nowhere. We cannot catch them. They are 47 people, Val shouted. We have 3,000 soldiers. Sir, our soldiers have not slept in 40 hours. They are making mistakes. They are seeing things. 3 units have shot at each other by accident. Val slammed his fist on the table. Then use gas, flood the sectors, force them out. They tried. The humans sealed the ventilation systems in their sectors. They had studied the station's blueprints, stolen from a database that the thought was secure. They knew every tunnel, every shortcut, every weakness. And they could hold their breath longer than the expected, much longer. A human body could survive without oxygen for minutes. A body started failing in seconds. When the gas cleared, the humans were still there. The soldiers who had rushed in to capture them were not. In the communications center was broadcasting everything. Her face appeared on screens across the station, across the sector, across the galaxy. She showed the footage. The medical supplies stolen from dying children, the crew of the Gentle Dawn being beaten, the commander laughing at human suffering. And then she showed what came next. She showed walking through corridors that should have been impossible to pass. She showed, her face still bruised, organizing the evacuation of civilian aliens who wanted no part of this fight. She showed turning the station's own systems against its masters. "This is what humans do," said into the camera. "We do not start fights. We do not seek violence. But when someone hurts the people we protect, when someone threatens the innocent, when someone mistakes our kindness for weakness, this is what happens." The galaxy watched. The High Council sent a message to Commander Val. "You were warned. You did not listen. This is your problem now." The Trading Federation closed all business with the consortium. "We do not work with those who anger humans," their statement read. Even the Crystalline Collective, who rarely spoke to anyone, sent a single message. "Fascinating. We will observe." On the third day, Val tried to call for reinforcements. His fleet was nearby. They could overwhelm the station with numbers. The call did not go through. Had taken control of the communications array. But more than that, other species had blocked the signals. Even some who had seen enough. "Why are you helping them?" Val demanded of a ship captain who refused to relay his message. The captain's answer was simple. "Because when this is over, the humans will remember who helped them, and I want to be on that list." On the station, the 47 humans moved like ghosts. They did not kill unless they had no choice. This was important. They were not monsters. They were not savages. Every who fell was disabled, not destroyed. Every soldier who was captured was treated with respect. This scared them more than anything. "Why don't they kill us?" a captured officer asked as she gave him water. "Because we're not like you," said. "We don't enjoy this. We don't want this. But we will not stop until our people are safe and our mission is complete." The officer looked at her, this small, soft, injured human who had every reason to hate him. "What are you?" he whispered. Smiled, but there was no joy in it. "We're human," she said, "and you should have run when you had the chance." By the fourth day, Val had lost control of half the station. His soldiers were exhausted, terrified, and broken. The humans had not won through strength. They had won through endurance, adaptation, and an absolute refusal to give up. Stood at the entrance to the command center. Behind him were his crew, his allies, and every human on the station. He looked at the door. "One more conversation," he said quietly. Then he walked inside. The command center of Horizon's Edge was a large circular room filled with screens and controls. At its center stood Val, surrounded by his last loyal guards, 20 of the best soldiers, armed with the most powerful weapons on the station. And across from them stood one human. Park walked into the room alone. He carried no weapon. His clothes were dirty and torn from 4 days of moving through the station. His gray hair was messy. His eyes were tired. But he was not afraid. "So," Val said, his voice trying to sound strong but failing, "the human comes to surrender." Stopped in the middle of the room, he looked at the guards, he looked at their weapons, then he looked at Val. I came to give you one last chance, said. Val laughed, but the sound was hollow. You, give me a chance. Look around, human. I have 20 soldiers, you have nothing. Nodded slowly. I know, that's why I'm being generous. He took a step forward. The guards raised their weapons, did not stop. Here is what is going to happen, he said, his voice calm and clear. You will release my crew. You will return my ship. You will give back the medical supplies you stole. And you will broadcast a formal apology to the colony, explaining that their children almost died because of your greed. Val's eyes glowed with anger. And if I refuse? Tilted his head slightly. Then I stop being irritated and start being angry. The room was silent. You don't want to see what comes after angry, added quietly. No one wants to see that. Val looked at his guards. They were supposed to be fearless. They were supposed to be loyal, but he saw something in their eyes that he had never seen before. They did not want to fight this human. Shoot him, Val ordered. No one moved. I said shoot him. The lead guard, a veteran of 30 years, lowered his weapon. No, Commander. What? I have watched the recordings, the guard said. I have seen what these humans can do. I have seen our soldiers fall one by one to creatures we thought were weak. I have seen them fight without sleeping, adapt without thinking, work together like one mind with 47 bodies. He looked at. We cannot beat them, the guard said. We will not beat them, and I will not die for your pride. One by one, the other guards lowered their weapons. Val stood alone. For a long moment, no one moved. The great commander of the forces, conqueror of systems, killer of thousands, stood facing a single unarmed human. And he was afraid. What are you? Val whispered. His expression softened. For just a moment he looked sad. I'm a freighter captain, he said. I move cargo from place to place. I help people. That's all I ever wanted to do. You could have let me pass. You could have shown mercy to dying children, but you didn't. He stepped closer. We are not monsters. We are not demons. We are just humans. We get tired. We feel pain. We want peace. His voice grew harder. But when someone hurts the people we protect, when someone threatens the innocent, we become something else. We become patient. We become relentless. We become a force that does not stop, does not tire, does not forget. He was now standing directly in front of Val. This is your last chance, said. Take it. Val's shoulders fell. His head dropped. In front of his guards, in front of the cameras that were broadcasting across the galaxy, the commander of the forces surrendered. 3 hours later, the gentle dawn left Horizon's edge. The medical supplies were loaded. The crew was aboard, stood at the window, watching the station grow smaller behind them. We did it, she said quietly. Sat in his captain's chair. He looked older than he had 4 days ago, tireder. We did what we had to do, he said, nothing more. The supplies reached the colony in time. Thousands of lives were saved. Children who should have died grew up to have families of their own. Across the galaxy, the story spread. It was told in trading posts and diplomatic halls, in schools and homes, on ships and stations. The story of how 47 humans, none of them soldiers, had brought a military force to its knees. Not through cruelty, not through savagery, but through patience, endurance, and an absolute refusal to give up. The Galactic Council met and added a new rule to their diplomatic protocols. It was simple. No species shall provoke a human past the point of stated irritation without accepting full consequences. Young aliens grew up hearing the warning from their parents. Humans are kind. Humans are patient. They will help you, trade with you, work beside you. But if a human ever tells you they are getting irritated, you run. You don't look back. You run. Years later, a young alien trader asked about what had happened on Horizon's edge. By then, was an old man, still flying his ship, still moving cargo, still helping people. How did you do it? The trader asked. How did your species become so feared? Smiled. It was a kind smile, a tired smile. "We're not feared," he said. "Not really. We're just very, very stubborn, and we remember." He looked out at the stars. "The galaxy learned many things about humans that day," he said softly. "But the most important lesson was the simplest." "What lesson?" Turned to face the young trader, and his eyes held the weight of a species that had survived ice ages and wars and the dark between stars. "Humans don't start fights," he said. "We finish them." And somewhere in the galaxy, the story continued to spread. The rule continued to be taught, and every species remembered. When a human says, "Now I'm getting irritated," you run.